Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Magic Gamer 74. I'm your host, Anthony Gamer, and today we're going to continue on with discussing great cards from the Legends expansion. In the previous episode, I discussed some of the legends from Legends and how you could use some of them in your own decks or even play Commander with them. And now we're going to continue on with some of the great cards from the Legends set itself. So before we get started, if this is something you think you really like, let us know by giving me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to click that bell icon down there so you'll be notified when I upload new episodes. If you think these are worth sharing, please do. Also, before I start, please don't forget to read the disclaimer you'll find in the description below. It'll make both of our lives a lot easier. So let's begin. Now, Legends was quite a large expansion. It had roughly around 300 cards, and the complete set itself is worth around $20,000, and it was released in June of 1994. The average price of the card then is right around $64. Now, there are some very expensive cards in this set, I'm not going to deny it, but there also are some great cards that you could probably like to use in your current decks that you play with. Also, you'll find that I will give you some of the expensive cards in this set I will recommend, but because they are quite high priced, I will recommend an alternative card that costs a lot less that either does the same thing or sort of the same thing. As sometimes you'll find cards that have the same effects, but they may have a higher casting cost or slightly different. Also, this set, while being extremely popular with collectors, is not without its controversy. Some of the cards from the set have later been banned, not just from gameplay, of course, as they like to ban some cards off of Arena and other types of playing just because they can. But I'm talking about some cards that were just controversial in nature were banned and kind of not discussed anymore. Besides that, collectors back in the day complained, saying that some of the ultra rare cards were almost impossible to get. So back in '94, if you were trying to get the complete set, it was really hard to do because some cards were just, collectors said, were damn near impossible to get a hold of. With that in mind, I know there's some people out there that like to purchase high dollar booster packs like Legends or Arabian Nights. I would not recommend doing this if you are trying to get the complete set. It's probably a better idea just to go to stores, search online and different places like that, because I've seen a lot of people get burned with booster packs. Especially with Arabian Nights, a good friend of mine who collected from back in the day claims that it was actually possible to peek inside there without opening it and see what the rare was. With Legends, if you're expecting to get a Moat or a Chains of Mephistopheles, you're probably not going to in a booster. So, I mean, some of you do enjoy getting boosters and you can afford it, but for the average collector that's trying to get the set, I would recommend just doing the legwork, period, as opposed to expecting to spend $500 to $1,000 on a booster and then be surprised when you don't make your money back on the cards in the pack. So without all that aside, then let's go ahead and get started with the Legends cards. It's a large set, so this is going to take us more than one episode. So let's get into the cards. All right, today we're going to mix it up a little bit. We're going to start with artifacts. All right, and our first artifact for today is Arena of the Ancients. It taps for 3 colorless, and legendary creatures don't untap during their controller's untap steps. When Arena of the Ancients enters the battlefield, tap all legendary creatures. Nice. Definitely a great card to play against somebody who loves to play with Legends. All right, this card is currently worth around $40, and it has been reprinted. If you're like me, you love artifacts that can also be used as lands, especially when you can store up those lands for later use. So you're going to love this next card, and that is Black Mana Battery. It casts for 4 colorless, and its effects are tap 2, tap it, put a charge counter on Black Mana Battery. Tap, remove any number of charge counters from black mana battery. Add 1 black mana, then add an additional black for each charge counter removed this way. Pretty cool. This card is not too expensive. It currently is worth around $4.75, and it has been reprinted. What I should have said is you'll like the next few cards. As next up, we have Blue Mana Battery. It casts for 4 colorless. Tap 2, tap it, put a charge counter on Blue Mana Battery. Tap, remove any number of charge counters from Blue Mana Battery. Add 1 blue, then add an additional blue for each charge counter removed this way. Now, this card is also not going to set you back, as it is currently worth $4, and it has been reprinted. All right, next up we have Gauntlets of Chaos. This is a really fun card. It casts for 5 colorless. Okay, tap 5, sacrifice Gauntlets of Chaos, exchange control of target artifact, creature, or land you control, and target permanent and opponent controls that shares one of those types with it. If those permanents are exchanged this way, destroy all auras attached to them. Now, this card is a lot of fun when it can be, but also I've had it backfire on me a couple times. But anyway, this card is a little more expensive. It currently is worth around $15.73, but it has been reprinted several times. All right, and next up we have Green Mana Battery. So yeah, I'm going to cover all the mana batteries for each color, just so you know. All right, this one casts for 4 colorless. Tap 2, tap, put a charge counter on Green Mana Battery. Tap it, remove any number of charge counters from Green Mana Battery, add 1 green, then add an additional green for each charge counter removed this way. This one's a little cheaper than the other ones. It currently is worth around $3.91, and it has been reprinted as well. All right, and this next one is really a good card to use when you are desperate for lives. Okay, this is Life Chisel. It casts for 4 colorless. Sacrifice a creature. You gain life equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness. Activate only during your upkeep. This card will run you right around $4, and it has not been reprinted. All right, next up we have a card I would love to get, and probably just about everyone else that plays Magic would like to have it, and that is Mana Matrix. It casts for 6 colorless. Instant and enchantment spells you cast cost up to 2 colorless less to cast. Whew, I would love to have that card. If you'd like to add this to your collection, it's a little expensive, as it right now runs right around $107, and it was not reprinted. Next up we have a card that probably everybody that's played Magic has heard of, and it goes with a great combo. And this card is Mirror Universe. It casts for 6 colorless. Tap, sacrifice Mirror Universe, exchange life totals with target opponent. Activate only during your upkeep. Now, the card that this is a combo with is a card called Lich. I'll put that on the screen right here. Basically, what you do is you give yourself 0 life with the Lich card, and then you use Mirror Universe, and then switch with your opponent, and at the end of your turn, your opponent loses. Yeah, it's a fun card, and I actually have got that combo to work a couple times. However, this card, like the Lich card, is quite expensive. It currently is worth around $418, and it was not reprinted. All right, and this next card, I love this card. I love the artwork. That is so freaking awesome. Anyway, this is North Star. It casts for 4 colorless. Tap 4, tap it. For 1 spell this turn, you may spend mana as though it were mana of any type to pay that spell's mana cost. Additional costs are still paid normally. Nice, huh? This card is kind of good if you're playing more than one color deck. Like, for instance, if you're playing Commander and you're like playing 3 colors and you're really needing colors of a mana of a certain color and they just won't come up, this is the perfect card for it. This card is a little on the expensive side, as it will run you around $75, and it has not yet been reprinted. All right, next up we have Planner Gate. I'm going to stop saying colorless because it's an artifact, and most of the time they cast for colorless anyway. So this one casts for 6 creature spells.
You cast cost up to 2 colorless less to cast. There, I just said it again. Anyway, you get the point. This is a pretty cool card. Definitely one that I think just about anyone would love to own and would love to have in just about any deck. However, this card's a little on the expensive side. It will currently cost you around $118, and it was not reprinted. Okay, next up we have the red mana battery. This one will cost you 4. Tap 2, tap it, put a charge counter on red mana battery. Tap, remove any number of charge counters from red mana battery, add 1 red, then add an additional red for each charge counter removed this way. This card is currently worth around $5.61, and it has been reprinted a few times. All right, and next up we have Relic Barrier. It casts for 2. Tap target artifact. Pretty cool. Well, this card isn't too expensive. It's right around $10, and it has been reprinted. And there are, of course, several cards that do the same thing. But if you're a vintage collector and you want something that does that for a low casting cost, this is the card for you. All right, and next up we have Sentinel. Interestingly enough, I just played with this card a couple nights ago. It casts for 4. It's an artifact creature. Tap 0. Change Sentinel's base toughness to 1 plus the power of target creature blocking or blocked by Sentinel. Pretty cool. This card is worth right around $15, and it has been reprinted a couple times. And next up, we have a card that my wife would really like, and that is Serpent Generator. It casts for 6. Tap 4, tap it. Create a 1/1 colorless snake artifact creature token. It has whoever this creature deals damage to, whenever this creature deals damage to a player, that player gets a poison counter. And if you don't know, 10 poison counters and you're dead. So, yep, lots of fun with this one. This card is a little on the expensive side. It currently is worth around $22, but it has been reprinted several times. All right, and next up we have Sword of Ages. I have this card in a couple decks. It really comes in handy sometimes. In this card, it casts for 6. Sword of Ages enters the battlefield tapped. Tap, sacrifice Sword of Ages and any number of creatures you control. Sword of Ages does X damage to any target, where X is the total power of the creature sacrificed this way. Then exile Sword of the Ages and those creature cards. So, where would you use this? In a Goblin deck. Oh yeah, definitely. This is a Goblin deck card. So if you are the type of if you have a Goblin deck, add this card to it. It will cost you a little bit though. This card is currently worth around $96 and was not reprinted. And so we wrap up artifacts with White Mana Battery. It casts for 4. Tap 2, tap it, put a charge counter on White Mana Battery. Tap, remove any number of charge counters from White Mana Battery. Add 1 white, then add an additional white for each charge counter removed this way. This card is currently worth around $3.83, and it has been reprinted a few times. All right, we're going to move on to lands, and then we're going to call it a day. Now, the lands and legends do more than just give you mana. Some of them have some pretty cool effects besides that. So let's go ahead and begin. Our first land for today is Hammerheim. This is a legendary land, which again, legendary lands means there can only be one of them out on the battlefield at a time. So probably not a good idea to put 4 of these in your deck. Anyway, Hammerheim is tap it, add 1 red mana. Tap target creature loses all landwalk abilities until end of turn. Landwalk isn't as much of a issue as it used to be. I don't really recall seeing a lot of landwalk abilities in newer cards, but I could be mistaken. But regardless, card you might want to put in your red deck, especially if you know somebody who plays a lot of old cards. This card is currently worth around $23 and was not reprinted. All right, and next up we have Caracas. This also is a legendary land. Tap it to add 1 white. Tap, return target legendary creature to its owner's hand. Now, interestingly, this card has been banned from Commander, and I expect because legends are also planeswalkers, so that kind of gives you an unfair advantage, like, go pick up your commander. So that's my guess anyway. Sometimes there's no logic at all as to why cards are banned. Anyway, this card will currently run you around $72, but it has been reprinted a few times. All right, and next up we have another legendary land, and this is Pendelhaven. This one, you tap for green mana, and then tap target 1/1 creature gets +1/+2 until end of turn. Now, besides being inexpensive, this card is currently around $26, and it has been reprinted several times. I would highly recommend using this in a green elf deck. This is probably just a must-have for that kind of deck. And next up we have Talaria. This legendary land taps for 1 blue. Tap it. Target creature loses all banding and all bands with other abilities until end of turn. Activate only during any upkeep step. Banding, again, is something that's not really used much anymore either, but still. And also that picture is really nice, especially this time of the year. It's currently February 2023, and looking at that island picture makes me wish for warmer weather. Anyway, this card is currently worth around $9 and was not reprinted. And our final card for today is Urborg. This is also a legendary land. It taps for black mana. Also tap, target creature loses first strike or swamp walk until end of turn. Yep. This card will currently cost you around $26, and it was not reprinted. In our next episode, we will continue to discuss more great cards from the Legends expansion. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I will see you all in the next one. Until that time, take care. Bye for now.